Hi everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, whatcassread. I have been reading like crazy this year. It is complete night and day from my reading experience from 2022. I had the biggest slump, not only in reading, but like literally in my life, and I just couldn't, I could barely finish books, and it wasn't fun for me. So when the new year came around, I have decided I'm not doing TBRs. I am doing 0 TBRs in the year of 2023. And I'm just going to mood read, and I'm just going to pick up what feels good, and I'm going to put a book down if I'm like, nope, this isn't it right now, and then I'll just try another one. And that has worked so much better for me this year. So I am here today to wrap up January. Yes, I know it's March, but I literally just started filming again, so this is what you're gonna get. And I read 16 books in the month of January. There were quite a number that were on audio, there were quite a number that were ebooks, so I don't have physical copies with me, but I do have a stack of physical books with me right here. And I have been keeping a reading journal. This is one of those Archer and Olive's 8x8 square books, and this has also been keeping me motivated to read, and I haven't done a video on my reading journal setups or anything like that, so if you're interested in that, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. But one of the best spreads that I decided to do was a reading calendar. So now I can actually see at a quick glance what books I finished when, what order I finished them. I can see the star rating and all of that good stuff. So that's what I'm going to be following along with, so I don't miss any of the books that I finished in the month of January. And like I said, there were 16 books. Let's just get into it. Let's start. So the very first book that I did end up finishing in the month of January was The Alloy of Law, written by Brandon Sanderson. This is book number 1 of the Mistborn Era 2 saga that we are embarking in. I decided to pick this book up because I haven't read this series yet, and I thought, I don't know, you'll have to let me know in the comment section below if I'm on the mark with this, but I thought that for Rhythms of War, which is book number 4 of Stormlight Archive, that I needed to read some of these before beginning on that. Let me know if I'm correct, but that's why I started it. And he had just released the newer installment into this series. So this takes place several thousand years after the events of the first Mistborn trilogy, and in my opinion, you kind of have to read them in order. You can't just jump into Second Era, because the magic that we came to know and love in the first era Mistborn is definitely still present here, and Sanderson doesn't really go into much explanation. There's like, you should already have the knowledge of this magic system before beginning this. I mean, you don't have to, but like, you're not going to get explanations of the magic system before you pick this one up. But this takes place in more of like a Western style. Elendil has changed, and we meet 2 characters, Wax and Wayne, and they are lawmen, and they practice out in the rough, so they're not in the city, but through various events in Wax's family, he ends up having to take over the seat of the family, and he now has to like take his place as a lord instead of a lawman out in the roughs. And there's some conflict there. This was a really fun kind of like, there were some shootouts and things like that. This was a really fun story. It didn't have quite like the punch and the impact the way that the first trilogy did. So I ended up rating this one at 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't bad. I'm still obviously going to continue on with it, but it didn't hold me the way that the first one did. And I think that's just like unfair for this book, because like Kelsier is one of my favorite characters of all time, and I just don't think I'm gonna get Kelsier, so to like put them in the same, like, this is a Mistborn book, it's kind of unfair to this series, because I think perhaps if I didn't have Kelsier and Vin and Sazed in my mind from reading the first trilogy, I would have enjoyed this, like, I would have been able to like give this a much higher rating, I think. I don't know. But I don't think I'm alone in that. So anyway, that's why I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Still really enjoyed it. And I look forward to continuing on with some more Brandon Sanderson this year. Like I said, no TBR this year, so we'll see when I end up picking it up. Then I have been exploring dark romance. Or I had been exploring dark romance in the month of January. I am not doing TBRs. I'm just in the mood to explore the different romance tropes. So I thought, let me try dark romance. And the reason why I came across this one, I was rewatching Sons of Anarchy. So I was like, ooh, maybe let me try Motorcycle Club romance. And this one's dark romance. And so that's how I got into it. So I'm talking about the Hades Hangman series written by Tilly Cole. The first book is called It Ain't Me, Babe. And these are available on Kindle Unlimited. So that's where I ended up reading those as an ebook. Ooh, what can I say about this one? I did give it 3 out of 5 stars. So there were a lot of flaws with this book for me, but I felt like, oh, you know, the plot's pretty interesting. So it's like a childhood kind of, they're not friends, but like a childhood soulmate reconnection kind of situation. So bear with me, this is kind of an outlandish plot, but there is a young woman who is trapped in this religious cult, and I love me a good true crime. I love me a cult story. I watch and listen to a lot of like podcasts and things. So I was like, oh, cults. That's weird. Oh, cults. Super weird inflection on that. It was a topic that I felt would be very interesting. So this young woman is trapped in a cult, and she escapes the cult and finds herself with this motorcycle club where our male hero, I hate hero heroine, but our male protagonist has been living, and he grew up in this motorcycle club. When he finds out what has happened to her, he gets really angry. He wants to protect her. She basically wants to just like forget her life if the cult ever happened, but anyway, things happen. So, like I said, there were some flaws in this and things that I think Tilly Cole as an author, this is independently published, and maybe if she had a bigger team, I don't know, or a bigger team of beta readers, I'm not sure how she like put this book out into the world and like what stages she took to get it there, but it definitely could have used some polishing up, in my opinion. One of the main gripes that I had was Tilly Cole is from the UK, and the story itself takes place in Austin, Texas. And in my opinion, as someone who actually lives in Austin, Texas, I think she just picked it out on a map and was like, that place is cool. I think I want my setting and my characters to be from that area. But I don't think she's ever spent time in this area. So there were a lot of like things that if you had done any ounce of research on the area that we are in, there's some things that just like literally don't make sense. Not to the plot, not to the scenery, not to anything. So that itself was pretty, I was like, okay, I can get over it, I think. The other thing that I thought was pretty annoying, and I've heard this from other book reviewers, was just her use of language, and it was extremely juvenile. She does have like an explanation before the book begins that, you know, she took accounts from women who were involved in religious cults and escaped. I don't know if she personally interviewed them, but she took accounts, so she was trying to be true to their stories. But the motorcycle club aspect of it, I think, oh, I mean, who can really get involved with a 1%er motorcycle club? Only the people who are involved in it. So I think she just took like a dramatized version of motorcycle clubs, and she had this glossary of terms, and pardon my language, but she was like, you know, club slut, bitches, whores. And it was like, the people in the club only used these terms ever. Like there was no such thing as a synonym for a bitch. There was no such thing as a synonym for a whore. It was literally all, all these men used that term. And to me, it's like, I think I'm just gonna stick to Sons of Anarchy. If I want like club language, right? But to me, this was like, yeah, they use those terms, and yeah, there's some people who would proudly call themselves someone's bitch, but that also felt just like lazy writing. And that's kind of like why I would never give this book higher than a 3-star. Now, one of the books later on I did, but we'll get into that. It's just, ooh, there was all of that. And then this is kind of like sums up all of the Tilly Cole books that I read in the month of January, but it just also kind of feels like she throws everything and the kitchen sink into the novels. So as the plot progresses, we have interactions with the Ku Klux Klan, we have interactions with possibly cartel members, we have Russian drug and gun running, and it's like, whoa, how can you be involved with that many things? I just don't think, why? Why? She just put all of those things in there. Plus, once again, she is a woman who lives in the UK, and she's trying to invoke some type of emotional and conflict response out of the setting with racial tension. But as someone who doesn't understand the nuance of racial tension in the American South, and by utilizing Ku Klux Klan and the cartel, which are very real things, and the sensitivities that go along with that, I don't think you should be putting that in here just for the sake of shock value. Just my opinion. So that one ended up getting 3 out of 5 stars. And I finished the first 3 books, which I think was the original trilogy, and I think I'm going to stop there. So the second book in the series is called Heart Recaptured. I gave that 2 out of 5 stars. It was not as good as the first one. And the first one was decent. It was not as good. And that one particularly was just like that main male character. He was just so immature, and I just couldn't get behind him. But then the third book in that trilogy was Souls Unfractured, where we have Maddie and Flame's story, and their story was just very compelling, which is why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The same faults that I had with the first 2 were still present, but these 2 just had a very strong connection that I could look past all of those faults because I was a fan of the couple. There are several trigger warnings for all of these books, and so if you're interested in Tilly Cole's writing, feel free to look at her Goodreads page, because she does list out the trigger warnings, and particularly for Souls Unfractured, that one was pretty rough to follow along with. There was just very, very heavy topics. I don't think that I'm going to stop reading and trying dark romance. Those are definitely the first 3 that I tried, and I kind of want to see what else is out there. So it definitely didn't shut me down from dark romance. So I'm glad I definitely tried those out. Then, after I finished It Ain't Me, Babe, back in the beginning of the month, I read Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. I ended up finishing the first 3 books in the the Red Rising saga, last year. And I put it away for just a second, and then I was like, oh, you know what? You only have 2 more books to finish. Let's pick up book number 4. So that's where I found myself reading Iron Gold. It didn't pack as much of a punch as the first 3 did for me, but I was really happy to see these characters and kind of see the aftermath of the revolution, basically, is where we get into this series. We're dealing with the aftermath several years after the revolution. We're with the rising of the Reds. We're dealing with a lot of characters and maybe their feelings about each other and what happened in the first trilogy. And so that was really fun for me. It was long. And I don't typically say that about a lot of books because I read a lot of long books, but it was long. It didn't have to be as long to me. But I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Pretty enjoyable. I started reading Dark Age, which is the 5th book. And I decided to just pump the brakes on that one a little bit, because then I realized he's coming out with the 6th book. And I was like, maybe I'll want to read that one closer to the release of the 6th book. So I just put a pause on it. Then came The Highlander, written by Kerrigan Byrne. My heart is so happy reading Kerrigan Byrne. In my romance book haul, which that's the video that I posted just before this one, I talked about Kerrigan Byrne being the very first romance, like historical romance author that I tried, and I'm so happy that she is. And this is the Victorian Rebels series. So this is book number 3 in the series, and we follow the demon Highlander, and he has some connections to the characters in the first 2 books. But basically this is a nanny romance. This woman, she has to kind of escape some things from her past, and her female friends decide, you know what, there's a posting, you know, my husband's cousin or whatever, they need a new governess for his household. And you could fill that position. We'll give you our recommendation, and then you can kind of escape some of the things that you need to escape up in Scotland, up in the Highlands. It's a perfect setup. So it's him, he's kind of got this tortured past. She is running from things, so they're trying to uncover each other's secrets. Is she a spy? Is she not a spy? He doesn't know, but she's the governess to his children, and she's doing a pretty good job, and he recognizes that, and it's their romance, and it's perfect. I loved it. Of the series, this is my second favorite because the first book is still my favorite, but I did give this 5 out of 5 stars. I really loved it. Then another book that y'all are gonna be shocked that it is 2023, and this is Hand to the Heavens, my first time reading this book. That is Daughter of Smoke and Bone, written by Laini Taylor. What? Is this booktube 2014? No, it's just that I literally took this long to read this book, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Like the first 2 Laini Taylor books that I read, which was Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares, I don't know what took me so long because I love Laini Taylor's writing. There's just something about the way that she writes that just moves me, that just gets me, and I loved it. The covers, like the original covers, honestly don't do this book any justice. It doesn't tell me what this is for. The back of this is like, once upon a time, an angel and a devil fell in love. It did not end well. So I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting, but that's still not even like what this book is about. And this book is so much more than that. We follow Carew, who is a student in Prague, Czech Republic, and she's an art student kind of living her life, but she has like a secret life on the side, which is the fact that she was raised by this like group of chimera in this like magical in-between world, where the magical world is on the other side of this door, and then the earth as we know it is on the other side of the door, and she was raised in this like magical in-between, and she does errands for them. The main person that she runs errands for, who runs this shop, is this wishmonger, and I loved them so much. Why did no one tell me that there's like a chimera group of found family? I don't know. But then of course, like, there's a major plot that takes place of why this angel and her fall in love, and it's so good, so good. I don't know when I'm going to pick up book number 2. I want to get to it soon because I'm really trying to like just finish trilogies all in the same year. But we'll see when I pick it up, but oh my god, I love this so much. 5 out of 5 stars. Then we get to my first DNF of the year, and I was shocked that I ended up DNFing this book, but I was just so bored. And in the spirit of trying to maintain a good reading pace, I'm just not messing around with books that I just don't care about the ending to. Which is really sad, and I'm really sad that it ended up being this book. So this is A Psalm for the Wild Built, written by Becky Chambers, and she is an author that I love dearly. I read The Wayfarers, the first 3 books. I haven't read the newest one. I loved each of those books like so much. It's like this cozy sci-fi. That's what I would describe it, because you know we got cozy fantasy going on, and that's a big thing. This is like cozy sci-fi. And I was so bored, I didn't actually care. We follow Monk and Robot, and they're just kind of learning about life and taking a step back. And the best thing about this book, honestly, was her dedication. She said, this book is for anyone that needs a break. And that like spoke to me so much. So that's why I'm so sad that this book didn't work out for me. I wish I had more to say than that. It just didn't hold on to me the way that I thought it would. And maybe I went into it with higher hopes, I don't know, than I should have. I couldn't say, but this was a miss for me from Becky Chambers, so that was my very first DNF of the year. All right, now I'm going to get into a very controversial topic. That is the topic of Prince Harry. This is Spare, written by Prince Harry. It's his autobiography. 5 out of 5 stars, 6 out of 5 stars, 10 out of 5 stars. I'm a Prince Harry fan, and I have been for a long time. I've been on Team Harry for a very long time, longer than before Meghan was in the picture. I've just been a fan of his for a long time. So despite all the things that are going on in the media right now about him, his book, his release, him leaving the royal family, whatever, I was going to buy this book no matter what. And I loved it so much, I did end up getting it in a physical copy because I listened to it on an audiobook and he narrates it. It was written by a ghostwriter, like in collaboration with him. But it was so well written. Like the ghostwriter that he chose, top tier. And I think his ghostwriter was like a prize-winning journalist, and it shows because there were a lot of really beautifully written passages. So I loved that. And then because I've been following him in his life for a long time, there were a lot of moments in here where we get to hear his perspective. Now, I am not blind to the fact that there are many different perspectives of the events that have gone on. His main villain in the story is the media, and of course it is, because that had a tremendous impact on his upbringing. So I'm not blind to the fact that there are multiple different perspectives, but it is nice to actually hear his perspective for once, you know, because that family is under a bubble and under just, you know, because that family is like, their secrets are so closely guarded, but also open secrets. And the kinds of, I don't want to say accusations, but the kinds of things that he says about what has been happening in his family, part of me is like, I don't have a reason not to believe him because the history pages are littered, literally littered, with the exploits and things that his family has done in the past. So hearing it from his perspective just kind of, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have a lot of respect for him as a person before this even came out, and I do still after reading his book. So, like I said, probably the most controversial book on my whole wrap-up, but I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. She just published this in the month of January, and this is kind of like a spin-off epilogue of the Elfhame novels. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars, and I was actually really disappointed in this book. I had such high hopes for it because I knew that, you know, we have the Cruel Prince and Queen of Nothing, and then King of, I don't remember the King one, but I have that whole trilogy, and I've loved that whole trilogy, and I feel a little bit duped. I'm gonna rest my back on the shelves because, wow, my back is kind of sore from last night. I'm getting old. I'm 36. So I feel a little bit duped because I'm like, why did I love that so much and then find this one to be just not worth my time? I almost DNF'd this book, but I ended up powering through it just so that way I could be done. Like, I have no emotional connection to it. I couldn't tell you a thing about it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because it wasn't bad, but my goodness, it wasn't great. And the very ending is like, this is supposed to be a duology, and I don't think the ending is going to be enough for me to continue on with it. There was like this very big shocking thing that happened at the end, and it's just didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. We follow Prince Oak, who is someone that we meet in the first trilogy. So, I don't know. I was very upset by it. Talk about like biggest disappointments of 2023. That one's probably going to wind up in that video. Then I finished Heart Recaptured, which was that 2 out of 5 star motorcycle club romance. And after that, I then ventured into another romance subgenre that I'd never tried before, and that is Torn, written by Carrie Cole. This is a taboo romance, and the taboo nature of it is there is a big age gap between characters, and it is a parent's best friend romance. It is also someone who has been in this woman's life, in this character's life, since she was born. So, yes, he is not related to her, but he is an uncle figure. Nothing happens between these characters. I think you should know that. Nothing happens between these characters until she is 18, but at the start of the book she is 17, and you know, that's part of the like tension of like she's 17 and she's forbidden and she's also my parents' best friend's daughter, and it was fine. It was fine. I just I don't want to give up on trying other taboo romances. There's actually another one on my Kindle Unlimited that I've kind of got like reserved, and I want to try that one to see if I'm truly not into taboo romances, or I just didn't love this story because of the like closeness of the characters and the fact that this person was like a parental figure in her life, because it kind of, I got the icks when things started happening, because like I said, he held her the day that she was born, and she'd been in his life. He had been an uncle figure to her, and then when things changed, then it was like, ugh, I could have done without that, even though I knew it was like the whole plot of the book. So for me personally, it was a 3 out of 5 stars. A lot of people really enjoyed it. It just wasn't for me, but it wasn't bad, so that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. The next 5-star book was a collection of short stories written by Sebastian de Castell. That is The Tales of the Greatcoats. Oh, I forgot, like, I know I love the Greatcoats, but then I forgot how much I love the Greatcoats until I listened to some of these stories, because we do see some of the characters that we met in the first 4 or 5 books. There's 5 books. We see some of them and what they've been doing with their life after the end of those books, and we also meet some of the newish Greatcoats that were not featured, and wow. So powerful, so good. I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. And I would have been willing to like not give it 5 out of 5 stars, but it truly did deserve the 5 out of 5 star recommendation. They were just, oh, so good. So good. So I actually listened to that on audiobook. I don't have a physical copy of it. I didn't realize there was a physical version, but eventually I'll purchase that and kind of add that to my shelves, because I need to have it next to all of my Greatcoats books. And then that brings me to Dreaming of You, written by Lisa Kleypas. So she is a huge romance author. So many people love her books. There are just a million different Lisa Kleypas books out there. So she is an author that I wanted to give a chance to and see if I liked her writing style. I mean, it's too late. I already bought so many of her books. But this particular book was one that a bunch of people said that could be a good place to start with her. And so this follows our young heroine, Sarah. She is a writer. She is in kind of like the seedier part of London, because she is trying to not infiltrate, but research a gambling hell, because that is going to be the subject of her newest book. And that's where she meets Derek Craven, who is the owner of this gambling hell, and she gets intrigued by what's going on there, intrigued by him. He's grumpy and has a lot of things going on in his life too. And it was fun. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. Very lighthearted for me personally, maybe because of the dark romance books that I've been reading earlier in the month. But it was definitely lighter in tone, and it was just a good time. Still want to try more Lisa Kleypas books, so I'm glad I gave this one a try. 3 out of 5 stars. Then the next book is a Stephen King book that I wanted to read. I'm still working my way through his backlog. I've just been picking one up per month as the mood strikes me. And so the one that I picked up for January is The Running Man. He wrote it under his pseudonym Richard Bachman. And this is a game show type of thing, but with a really sinister undertone. So it is this man who enters himself into this game show where he is a man on the run, and he is being hunted because the whole point of the game show is to kill him. But if he survives it, then his whole family gets money and he gets power and all of the things. And this was just really fun, fast-paced, a dystopian world that had a lot to say. There was a lot to say about it, about the rich versus the poor, the have versus the have-nots, the pollution and the health and the crisis in society that is not being displayed upon the TV network that just kind of runs everybody's life. And I thought it was really great, and I thought it was really impactful, and I liked it. And it was short. And I think there were definitely things that we could have had more of, but I don't think that was the whole point of this. I don't think it needed to be drawn out more than it was, but there were some really great moments where I was like, damn, I wish I had more to go on. This was a 4 out of 5 star read for me. All right, after Souls Unfractured, then I picked up my very first Elsie Silver book. This is Flawless, and this is an indie published contemporary grump sunshine, forced proximity kind of situation. And Elsie Silver single-handedly made me believe that I could love contemporary romance. And so that was kind of the theme of February, so like preview to my February wrap-up. But I was really nervous to begin this book because this, talk about hype on social media, this series has so much hype behind it on social media. And so I picked it up on Kindle Unlimited first, fell in love with it, and then immediately bought the whole series as physical versions. So this follows our two main characters, Summer and Rhett. Rhett is a famous bull rider, and he is world champion 2 times over. He's trying to go for his 3rd go around, and it's a very tough sport, tough on the body, tough mentally. If you've ever watched any of those like bull riding documentaries on Netflix, they're fascinating. They're fascinating. And it's just a world that I'm not particularly familiar with, the bull riding aspect. But I did go to college with a lot of men who came from agricultural backgrounds, so like the farming aspect, I definitely just kind of reminded me of some of the people that I had known once upon a time. And so, yeah, he's a famous bull rider, and he ends up getting caught on tape bashing milk product, and one of his biggest sponsors is milk. And so the daughter of his manager slash publicist ends up needing to babysit him to try and rehabilitate his image while he's trying to go for that 3rd world championship. Talk about grown folks coming together. This series, top tier steam. Top tier steam. If you're looking for like virginal steam, go with some of those historical romance books. But if you're looking for some experienced folks who are trying to get it on, Elsie Silver can give that to you. And it was amazing. It was so good. The hype definitely was real. And I am now like an Elsie Silver forever fan because of this series. She has like a prequel series before this, like the sister of the main character in this book, and I want to give that a try too. I haven't gotten to it yet, but wow, I've been like consuming all that I can about Elsie Silver, watched author interviews. I'm a part of her like Facebook group now. I love her. I love her. So this was a 5 out of 5 star read. And then, oh, coming down from that like super high of Elsie Silver, I came back to The Book of Night, written by Holly Black. And once again, I'm kind of having this existential crisis with Holly Black because I have so many books of her. Like the first trilogy, I'm like, is it a fluke? Is this not meant to be? Do I not like Holly Black? Like, this ended up being a DNF. This was my second DNF for the month of January, The Book of Night. I actually gave up on it pretty quickly, which is not something that I typically like to do, but I just had enough. And in kind of the spirit of wanting to keep my reading motivation up, I'm not about to mess around with books that are just not working for me. This is an urban fantasy book, urban fantasy novel. There's a young woman protagonist that we follow, and her boyfriend has some magical powers. And I couldn't even tell you the plot that we were about to embark on because I gave up on it so quickly. Like, the main character was just like the not like other girls, super grating on me. I just couldn't get into it. And then this is like a it's me not them kind of situation, but one of the things that really bothers me is when there's like a super topical modern day reference in a book, instantly pulls me out of the story. I can't lose myself in the fiction of it if you're talking about going to Target. And especially in a fantasy. I know it's urban fantasy, but still, that's not why I pick up fiction. That's not why I pick up fantasy. And once that happened, I was like, I just don't care, and I don't want to care. And so I DNF'd it. I actually looked at some other reviews of this book thinking like, okay, Is it just me? But I don't think it is. I think there's a lot of people who were disappointed in that book as well, and it's making me very hesitant to pick up anything from Holly Black in the future, which is really sad because I loved The Cruel Prince so much. Wow, this is going to be a long video. I've been filming for quite a long time, but I hope that you enjoyed, and eventually I will get to doing my February wrap-up. I'm not sure if it's gonna be in the same day. I'm trying to batch film, and you know how that goes, but that means I've been talking forever, so I don't know. Thank you so much for watching this. 16 books in 1 month. Pretty proud of myself. Some of them I flew through, and I've been having a really great, successful time this year with my reading. So let me know what you thought of those books. If you made it this far, is there a milk emoji, a cow emoji? Do that for flawless. And of course, follow me on my social media. Twitter, Instagram, @whatcassread, the same as this channel, so it should be super easy for you to find. Let me know what your favorite book of January was, and I will talk to you later. You know how these videos end. Bye.